Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Get Ready with Me. I do want to have a little disclaimer with you guys. I'm a little sick, so if I have a little crusty, rusty voice, I apologize. I'm going to try my best though. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Get Ready with Me, and this time we're talking about REPO, the Genetic Opera. If you know this movie, you know this movie and you're probably a fan. This one is different. And we started briefly talking about it with the last video. If you haven't seen that video yet, we actually discuss, what was it again? Queen of the Damned. We discuss Queen of the Damned, and that kind of stemmed into REPO because, well, this is another movie that it's more about the music than it is the premise of the entire movie. And being a fan of the movie, I know wholeheartedly that it honestly deserved better than what it got. And here we are. We're going to dive into it. We're going to start with the nitty-gritty. The movie is directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. If you don't know, Darren actually directed Saw 2, 3, and 4. And Saw 2 was honestly my favorite Saw. It was also my first ever experience with Saw, which probably is the reason why it's my favorite. I went back and I watched the second one, and then I went and watched the first one, never seeing it before, and I can imagine that I would have never continued the series watching the first one before the second. I don't know. The writers, Darren Smith and Terrence Zudich, you get it. They started this as a stage play. So REPO had performed in different parts of LA, in coffee shops and rock clubs, and it was a rock opera. It actually released on July 18th, 2008 in Canada at the Fantasia Film Festival in Montreal. It actually won Most Groundbreaking Film of the year. It would continue to release at other film festivals throughout 2008 into early 2009, with its first DVD release in Mexico that January. Its US release was limited in November of 2008. It actually only released to, I want to say it was less than 5 theaters, and from there they pretty much sent it straight to DVD. Its first stage play, though, the actual stage play, played at a club called CIA in 2002. So this film was actually a work in progress from the early 2000s to the early aughts. And unfortunately, it did not get very good reviews upon release. It had a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb, a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 3.1 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which I'm not really too familiar with Fuck it. Its filming locations were in Toronto. Its only filming location, let's be real, Toronto, Canada. I couldn't find any production dates. However, production, in a sense, started about 6 months prior to the filming because the actors had to actually sing their parts, and so they built the album prior to the movie. I'm gonna actually get started. I went and spoke too soon, so let's let's get a bass on. This is supposed to be a get ready with me. I'm freaking it up already. So, yeah. Like I said, I was really excited to dive into this one, mostly because, like Queen of the Damned, it has kind of a cult following, and I probably listened to Little Glass Vial prior to even watching the movie, just because of the scene I was in at the time. So I knew that this was one that I actually wanted to try. I need a mirror. I need a mirror. One moment, let me grab a mirror. Can't go anywhere without my Jurassic Park mirror. In any case, this was a movie that I did not discover until my later days. And it's still a movie that I crave to watch on several occasions, because it's just it has character, and the character is not just like the production value or the story. It is like every person that is involved in this film, and they have such a wide array of cast members, and that's what sets it apart from everything else. And not just that, they made sure that every one of these actors could sing, and every single one of them were so excited to be a part of this production. And as I tell you more about the movie, you're gonna notice that. And it's passion projects like this that really rope you in as a viewer. If you're like me and enjoy the deep dive of things like this. I was very ecstatic to find that they each enjoyed themselves. Okay. That's a good start. Much better than what we started with. One day I will fine-tune my identity here on YouTube. Until then, revel in the chaos. Okay. Good base. So anyway, kind of backtracking a little bit, I couldn't find any production dates, but like I said, they sang. They recorded their parts prior to actually filming. And so filming was only about a month long, from what I found. It ran from September 10th, 2007 to October 22nd, 2007. Its budget was only $8.5 million, and I say only because to me that still seems like a lot. Like, I feel like you can get a lot done even if you pay your major actors. Let's see, there was 6 actors. 5 of them, no, I would say 4 of them being pretty major. Even if each one of them got $1 million, I feel like you could still get a lot out of everything. But of course, this is just a hobby. I don't know anything about what it takes to film a movie, and obviously there are other crew members that deserve a paycheck as well. So looking at that and knowing that it was only a month long and it had almost a $10 million budget, I was like, that's it? That's not small. It's really small as far as the film industry goes. However, when it came to release, the film only grossed globally $188,000. That's very unfortunate. And I think from what I read, the film really didn't take off on release. It was years later, once it hit DVD, that they actually got a decent amount of money. So that's that. Its main cast, and you will definitely recognize a lot of these people that I'm about to list off, but Paul Sorvino, Anthony Stewart Head, Alexa Vega, Paris Hilton, Ogre, and Sarah Brightman. Two of those cast members are Broadway trained singers. Sarah Brightman is best known for her role in Phantom of the Opera, and I think she was also a award winner for Best Soprano. Don't quote me on that. I think I briefly heard that in an interview with Darren Lynn Bozeman. There was actually a scene in which she is singing, and after that scene was done, the entire cast clapped and cried and laughed and just were ecstatic, just happy. They were very happy that she decided to join. Now, Paul Sorvino is actually known for Goodfellas. We all know Goodfellas, right? But for a lesser known role in one of my favorite movies, See Spot Run.
Let me put it this way. If the two of yous don't whack this pooch, then the two of yous are gonna get whacked.
Such a good movie. It features David Arquette, Paul Sorvino, and the little boy, I can't remember his name, from 2.5 Men. Funny, goofy movie. Such a great watch. Anthony Stewart Head, you would know him from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Alexa Vega, of course, is from Spy Kids. Ogre is from the band Skinny Puppy. And, yeah. So, as you can tell, it's a wide array of cast members. The movie was actually inspired by Rocky Horror Picture Show and Blade Runner. So that was the entire shtick for REPO, the Genetic Opera. A little synopsis of the movie. It is based on a dystopian, not so distant future where a pandemic wipes out most of the world's population due to organ failure, and a large corporation called GeneCo capitalizes on organ transplants. So what they do is they offer these organ transplants with a payment plan. And if you fault on those payments, it is legally acceptable for them to send a repo man to collect that organ. Pretty bad, right? Now, this, going back to the roots of Repo, it started as a stage play, and it was episodic. There was about 3 or 4 different chapters that they would play out at different coffee shops and rock clubs, alternating those chapters, and Repo was based on one specific chapter called The Necromancer's Debt. And this actually premiered at the John Raitt Theater in 2002. When Darren Bozeman caught wind of this screenplay, he was super excited about it, and he practically begged the writers to allow him to direct it. He mentioned that they inevitably let him do it. I mean, we're here now talking about it. But he said that it was probably because of the incessant begging that he did. However, in interviews, Terrence and Darren both express how they loved how passionate Darren was. So, once Darren got his hands on the screenplay, he directed their show at his small theater on Hollywood Boulevard. This theater actually had a 2-window display where Terrence would go to the local butcher and grab organs. He would purchase organs and display them in these windows. And this led to their 2-weekend engagement being 2 months long. So the show was sold out after being sold out after being sold out. Several years later, Darren takes on his Saw franchise, and he filmed Saw 2. And after it was such an success, Lionsgate actually asked him what he wanted to do next. And because he promised the guys that he would turn it into a film, that's the first thing that he asked. He told Lionsgate, "I want to do a rock opera." And they laughed in his face, and they thought it was really cute and really funny. And they said, "Here's Saw 3. So he goes in to do Saw 3. And again, it's a major success. And so they obviously wanted him to continue the franchise. And so Lionsgate says, "Here's Saw 4. And Darren tells them, no. If I do Saw 4, you have to fund this rock opera." And so they agreed. And staying true to the roots of Repo, they actually filmed a 10-minute short film, and that's what they presented to Lionsgate. And they said, "Yeah, fine. Here you go." They then proceeded, fast forward, to show the film once everything was done. I'm skipping a few steps, but we'll come back to everything. They do the film. They offer it to a test audience. And Bozeman is enraged because what they show to the test audience has no music at all. So the test audience is sitting there confused. Darren's pissed, rightfully so. And it came to be about only 12% of that test audience would recommend Repo for release. And so they went from a $30 million budget to that $8.5 million that I mentioned earlier. So that being said, The movie is then featured in San Diego's Comic-Con in 2008. They actually did a panel, and that is part of my references down below. And on the panel, they talked about how hard it was for them to record the music and then go and act. Alexa Vega actually talked about it the most because she was like, if I took this song and I had a certain perception of what this song would be as an angsty teen locked up in a room for 17 years, not able to go outside and enjoy my life, I would have to then act a certain way when it came to that song in the scene. And they go on to mention that this was very much a labor of love production. A lot of them got next to no money to do this role. And reading through interviews and researching for this movie, it was very obvious how excited they were, because out of all of the interviews, not a single one of those actors were tired of talking about it. And that makes it almost disappointing that they weren't given the opportunity to make the film much bigger than what it came to be. Now, on the panel, Ogre talked about how this was his first acting gig, and he was very much welcomed by the rest of the cast, and they made him feel like family, and they made him feel like he was at home. Paris also mentioned that she was a big Saw fan, and as soon as she knew that Boseman was doing this film, she wanted to be a part of it. And throughout different interviews, there's a little bit of continuity error in some of the things when it comes to Paris, because she obviously knew he was doing it, and she met with someone, and it's someone who knows someone who knows someone, right? And so that was kind of how she was offered the opportunity. But I was also reading that Boseman kind of thought of her immediately anyway for the role of Amber Sweet. So, I don't know. It is also stated on RavenMythic.com that Paris donated a large portion of her wardrobe for the movie, which I think that's pretty cool. I think if it fits you, why not bring you as a character into the movie, right? During the meeting with Paris / audition, Boseman stated on his panel during the Comic-Con that she came in and she was very articulate and smart, and she was using words that he had never heard before. Now, for a lot of us, we grew up with a simple life, and so we all have this perception of Paris Hilton, and to no one's surprise, it was an act, right? She mentions it in multiple interviews, and thank God for that, right? Thank God for that. Bill Moseley, which I haven't actually mentioned him at all. I'm not familiar with a lot of the roles that he played. He did have to learn to kind of sing, but he is in a lot of horror flicks. I do recall maybe The Devil's Rejects. Let me know. And he is one of the siblings in the movie. A little brief snippet is Paul Sorvino plays Roddy Largo, who is the CEO of Gene Co., and he finds out that he is going to need to pass on the business, and he's having a hard time choosing which one of his children will take on that role. Bill Moseley is the oldest, and he is Luigi Largo. He actually saw Repo as a stage show, and he loved it. And then he was at a Comic-Con, a horror convention, because that's what he did, and he heard over a apparition that Darren Bozeman was on the other side talking about Repo, and they briefly spoke about it, and then fast forward, Bozeman reaches out to Bill and asks if he wants to be part of it. Bill is actually featured on Ogre's solo album, Devil in My Details. So he has a little like audio cue, which is kind of neat. They must have liked each other. I don't know. Let me find my next step in my makeup. During filming, Alexa Vega was on MySpace. She was really big into MySpace at the time, and she was actually dropping little behind the scenes videos for the movie. I think this had a lot to do with the fact that they knew that the movie had next to no budget. So because they were so passionate about the film, they wanted it to do well. And so she's, doing her little behind the scenes stuff, and she actually got in trouble with a couple of her videos because the studio wasn't quite ready to release the details that she was offering to the fans. I thought that was really cute. Despite getting in trouble, I think that shows initiative with the work that you're doing. And so that was a nice read. In different parts of the movie, you will see it featured a lot, and that are comic book panels. Now, while it was a stage show, that was how Terrence advertised it. And so all of the drawings that you see in the movie are Terrence's, and he used some of his early work, but he actually had to go film and then come home and draw every night because obviously the stage play had different actors and different ideals of what each actor would look like. And so he had to redo a lot of these panels to fit the narrative and the features of each actor. Now, going back to the interview with Rue Morgue, which is an online magazine, Darren mentioned that there were several options for the leading role, which I found kind of interesting. And it also makes me wonder if things might have changed for the movie if any one of these actors, musicians, were selected. There's 3 major ones, and they were Lenny Kravitz, John Bon Jovi, and Patrick Swayze. Right? Pretty cool. Now, Patrick Swayze actually recorded songs, about 5 of them, prior to filming. And unfortunately, he would then have to back out after recording because he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at the time. And unfortunately, Patrick would pass about a year later after the movie's release. So it's very likely that had things been different, just slightly, Repo actually would have been Patrick Swayze's last film. Which could have been kind of cool. I'm going for a red look because it kind of fits, you know? So yeah, I already briefly talked about a lot of the things that were in this interview, and I think it offered me probably the most information about the movie as far as production goes. And Darren straight out said how pissed he was that the test audience wasn't offered music or visual effects for the movie. What I should have done was the smudged black makeup that Paris wears as Amber Sweet. Dang. Another missed opportunity. It's probably fine though. I think we'll keep it smudged and grungy this time around. I kind of like it. Too much. Oh yeah. That's what I want. What I really, really want. Really, really want. Okay. Okay. So, I think that kind of sums up for the most part what I want to talk about. I'm going to finish with my lips and my eyes and the rest of my face, and I'll be back with some bonus features. All right, here's the final look. Now for some bonus little tidbits of information. I don't think that I mentioned it already, but there was actually 30 actresses that auditioned alongside Paris, and she blew them out of the water for obvious reasons. So I thought that was pretty neat. And there was about 60 individual pieces to the movie, and 7 to 8 songs and sequences were actually cut. One of Alexa's favorite songs was actually cut from the movie, and then they put the song into the ending credits. Writer Darren Smith mentioned that Paul Sorvino said that this was one of the best movies that he has ever acted in, and he much enjoyed it. I couldn't find anything as far as interviews with Paul Sorvino as far as what he thought of the movie or anything of the sort. So if you have something that you maybe want to share, leave it down below in the comments. And Hilton's performance actually won her an award for Worst Supporting Actress. Yeah. This was given to her by the Golden Raspberry Awards. This was the 29th annual award. And if you don't know what the Golden Raspberry Awards are, they're actually a parody award show given to the worst films of that year. So how nice of them to give her an award. Boseman actually used scenes in Saw 4 as parts in Repo. He purposely had scenes and stage setups made so that he could reuse them for the making of Repo. Yeah. Thank you again for joining in this chaos that is my channel. If you don't already know, my name is Dino Dare. I am a horror streamer, and I love all things horror. That's why we're here. I would love to discuss more movies, and I have a ton that I feel are backlogged, and I'm not sure what to start on next. So if you have any of your favorite horror movies, please leave them down below, and do not forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Lets me know whether you want to watch a VOD or whether you want to watch me talk about movies, because the slew of odds and ends and different forms of media I have on this channel is concerning. And we're just going to leave it at that as Astrophy interrupts. And I will see you guys later. Goodbye.